Oh, hello. In this video, we're going to look at how I improved my performance at work by just changing the way how favicons in browser is changing for the Stride application that we're using. So if you're not familiar with it, Stride is similar to Slack. Um, it's like a chat application built by Atlassian, and I believe it is at the end of era right now. It's no longer actively supported, but there are still some customers who um, started using it before um, before Atlassian acquired Slack. So uh, right now my company is using Stride, and there is one annoying user interface um, feature of it that uh, keeps distracting me and is reducing my performance. So what I'm going to talk about is the fav icon, and you would think how can it affect your performance, but the let's take a look. It's pretty interesting. So this is what Stride shows you as a default icon when no messages are being sent to you, and then you just see like this uh, icon of walking, like walking legs. I don't know. Looks like that to me. Like someone is striding. And as soon as you get some messages, like direct messages, then the icon becomes red, and you can see that there is some number. So that's how many messages, how many direct unread messages you got. And you um, probably work with chat applications the same way as me. You probably just have them running in the background, and periodically you look at some indicator that tells you that there are new messages. So that's what I'm doing. I scan my tabs from time to time, and when I see like a red icon, then I'm switching to an application. Unfortunately, very unfortunately for me, Stride decided that for indirect unread messages, it will show that same red icon but with a dot in it. And you might say, well, you know that it is a dot, it's not a number, so no one really wrote to you, it's just a message. But at that time, when you already looked at the icon and maybe very quickly you thought, oh, maybe I got a message, but then you realize it's not a message for me. But while you're still in that context mentally, you would probably go and look through all of the messages, make sure that they are read, and that icon now shows that you don't have any messages, and then you keep uh, back to what you were doing before. But as you can imagine, it's pretty distracting experience, and unfortunately I was doing that a lot. It was causing me a lot of like time lost by just making sure that I um, read all of my messages, and sometimes I just try to like either close Stride or just ignore it, but it's not very good way. So what I end up deciding is I wanted to write an extension that would fix that behavior, and it would no longer show this icon, and it would always kind of go to default icon when there are even when there are indirect unread messages. So it would either show this when there are no direct messages to me, and or it will show this when there are direct messages to me. That would be the ideal behavior. So the way how I tackled that, I looked and we looked at the overview of the problem. Then next I started looking at how do you work with Chrome extensions, and there is a pretty good tutorial by Chrome that okay, can I go to this link? Um, Pretty good tutorial by Chrome that tells you how you work with extensions, and it tells you that you need to create a manifest and there are some permissions you need to give, and maybe give some description, and maybe give it an icon, define some files that it will be working with. So that's pretty cool, but I started looking at extensions that already implement something close to what I wanted. So this extension looked pretty cool, like it was changing favicons for some website, like from the same kind of favicons to the ones that have a bit different versions of it, so probably it was more convenient for the author. So I looked inside the manifest.json and looked at what they were doing and pretty much copied into my own version, but the main things to notice here that there is that permissions section that asks for permissions for tabs, and also it lists the website that it would work with, and then it also defines content scripts. So I just copied those sections without really understanding what it's doing, and then after that I started researching. So first I looked at what is permissions and what type of permissions exist and what tabs are for. So usually this is the page that describes how you work with different permissions, and I'm going to provide all of the links on my website, webuniverse.io, so you can go there and you will see there will be an article about Stride with this video that you are watching right now, but yeah, that's where you will be able to find all of those links that to the pages that I'm showing you right now. So tabs, basically here, if we look at them, it says that it grants the extension access to privileged fields of the tab objects used by several APIs. Okay, so you usually use that to interact with tabs, like if you need to reorder them or maybe modify its contents. And then another option was you can also define host name, so it's mentioned somewhere here. So you basically define on which websites the extension should be active, and in my case I specified that only app Stride will be the one where it will activate. So next section was content scripts, and I also looked at that. Basically one interesting permission that I found on that page was called active tab. That's where you don't really request permission to a particular website. You're just saying that extension, like as long as you click on the extension icon, then it would activate. That's pretty cool, but unfortunately it doesn't work when you navigate away from the tab, and since that's kind of how I'm using that chat application, it's a web application, and I navigate to some other pages, that's where extension, I guess, will no longer work. So that's why I couldn't use active tab, but it's recommended practice to use that one instead of specifying websites or asking permissions for all websites. So next section is content scripts, and that one is basically saying that you can define what JavaScript or CSS you can load inside the browser, and from there you would be able to interact with the browser just using like native APIs. And there are some extra APIs that are that extension, kind of like Chrome extension API provides you, so that you can interact and like take advantage of more of the browser features, like the extension features. Alright, so what I end up specifying that when page URL matches appstride.com and then everything that goes after it, then we are loading following JavaScript files, and in that case it's just one file that is just a script that would execute when document is ready, and you would be able to read like what other run at options are available on the content scripts page that I showed you. So now we can kind of have an idea that when Abstract loads, then there is some script, some JavaScript that we execute. So if we looked inside what it's doing, it's pretty simple. There is that variable that has a base encoded URL for unread indirect messages icon, which looks like this, and then there is default icon that looks like this. So these are just strings, and then we're finding link with rel icon in the document, creating a mutation observer that would monitor attribute changes on the icon DOM element, and that's how Stride is using it. They're changing href attributes, so I'm basically through mutation observer I'm looking if icon href is now equal to that indirect messages icon, then at that time I'm logging something to console and just changing href to default icon. So that's pretty much it. Okay, so that's pretty cool, and the way how you can install that extension, you can clone this repository, stride favicon under Zarowski, and once you clone the repository, then you can go to Chrome extensions tab and enable developer mode, and from there you can also say load unpacked extension, and you find the path to the extension, and then that's what you will see. So you activate the extension, and then now it's active. Now it's going to work whenever I go to Stride application. So yeah, it's pretty cool to load application from the GitHub and enable it locally, but probably you want to get it into the like Google Chrome marketplace where for extensions, and in order to do that you go to the following URL, which is chrome.google.com/webstore/developer/dashboard, and over there you would be able to publish a new extension. So you just click on add new item, and from there you upload your extension as a zip file. Then you get that UI where you can enter some description and upload an icon if you didn't have one already, and you might notice some other things like you didn't specify a short name, or maybe you want to upload screenshots. And after that, eventually at the bottom of this form you will see a publish extension. So that's pretty cool, and it sounds like an easy way, but unfortunately after me spending some time crafting those favicons and making screenshots, I discovered that you cannot really publish unless you pay $5 US, and that's what Chrome is doing to prevent malicious applications from appearing on the marketplace, which I understand is just a bit unfortunate that for some small applications, for small extensions, you would need to pay. In my case, it's good enough for me to just use that local version. Well, if you want to sponsor me, then I would be able to publish this extension, but you know, it's not a big deal. You can, like, if you really need it, then you have a way to work with it, and you can even, like, if you want, you can clone it and publish as your own. That's not a problem with me. Alright, I hope you learned something new today, and thank you so much for watching.